I didn't get a paycheck for the first 3 years of ProCare. We would reinvest the money back into our programs. I was a nanny. I was cleaning houses. I was doing anything to make some extra income.
There's a lot of people that are against daycare because they hear all the horror stories. How have you built such a trustworthy and reputable, your staff?
I don't like to use the word jealousy. I was so young that those bigger fears that we talk about now that are really real, at that age, I'm like, I could do this.
How do you remove that ego and have such trust with?
I do feel like because
At 24 years old, I was let go of my corporate job. By 34, I was financially free with an 8-figure net worth. This podcast is all about taking adversities and turning them into financial success stories. I'm gonna ask for one small favor, and that's for you to click subscribe. Now let's get to the journey.
Tiff.
Hey, Dave.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God. So I've known you my whole life pretty much since grade 7. And to have you on my podcast and talk about your journey actually fulfills me. And why it fulfills me is because I bet you don't consider yourself an entrepreneur, but you are. And we just talked about 4 different avenues of businesses that you're doing. And the one avenue that I know you personally as is you've been running a daycare for the last
15 years.
15 years. So when did you start that daycare?
ProCare started March 1st, 2011, and it has been a whirlwind of a journey. And like you said, we've known each other for so long. So sitting here right now as entrepreneurs, business, adult people, it's just so full circle. It really is.
And why did you start ProCare?
I've always have been so passionate about children. I love their innocence. I love the fact that they are sponges and they can learn so much. And there's so much, there's so many studies about the importance of the first 7 years of a child's life. And to me, being able to have a positive impression on them and create a center that is filled with learning, support, and foundations to help them be a strong, confident, capable teenager, adult, it follows them throughout their life, was an area that I knew I wanted to be part of. And working at agencies, working in camps, having different jobs really helped prepare me to own and run a center.
And it's funny you say that because my wife, my mother-in-law was a stay-at-home mom and she raised my wife. And when my wife came to Canada and we had our first kid, I was like, I don't care what you say, they're going to ProCare and they're gonna, but there's a lot of people that are against daycare because they hear all the horror stories. How have you built such a trustworthy and reputable, your staff, your core staff have been with you for the last 15 years. I couldn't see us not sending our kids to ProCare after going through the whole experience, but building that trust for people. How did you how did you approach that scenario and that conversation? Because you have to give so much trust
You
to
do.
the individual to take care of your 16-month-old kid.
Yes. I feel so. I work for Algonquin College, and all of my staff were students of mine. Prior to hiring them, I would watch them in their co-ops and their placements. So I've been very selective of the educators that I'm hiring. Before ProCare grew for us to have a staff, it was Aaron, my business partner, and myself running a before and after school program. So we put our whole heart, everything into this program. And then to have new employees join in, it was very important to me that they held the same values. Aaron and I are hands-on in the agency. We are always overseeing the task, making sure the systems make sense so that it's easy for the staff to implement. But of course, parents, we want them to trust us and to know that when they send their child to ProCare, their child, all areas of their development are being considered. Their nutrition. We have Chef Deb in the kitchen who is always making wonderful meals so their belly's full, and that's also great for their brain health. We spend a lot of time outside so that they're getting all the fresh air. And when you're outdoors, it's a different type of play than an inside environment would provide. Also, just having conversations with parents. What are you looking for your children? What are your family values? And then explaining to them our policies and our procedures and how ProCare operates. Every family has a decision on where they're going to send their child. And we feel so privileged that families are wanting to be with us at ProCare. And our wait list is a 200 parent wait list
Mm.
just to join our program. We feel very fortunate and we don't take that lightly. So every month we have team meetings with our staff to ensure that we are of high standards and excellent services are being offered. I feel like with Aaron and I being part of the team, not just managing the team. So we're cleaning toilets, we're wiping toys, we are doing circle time. It role models for our team the standard that's expected. And as well, it allows us to be a team, to collaborate together and to share the workload. In our program, it's very intentional, the setup. And what I've experienced in my career is if we have an abundance of toys or too many things going on, it's hard to manage it all. So we have intentional play setups with minimal toys. That way we don't get as overwhelmed. We're able to change up the environments and parents will see the cleanliness of it and the thought that goes behind our curriculum planning. But absolutely, there are some new families who have joined who might have reservations because they don't know ProCare on a deeper level. They haven't had a child in the program. They've heard great references from families, but for them, it's their baby, it's their precious, child. They don't want to just send them to somewhere they're unaware of. So we allow them to have visits. We do integration times, and we have a daycare app, so we could share photos or notes and updates at any time. A parent could send us a message and we'll share an update with them. So I feel that communication has created a relationship built on trust and transparency.
And if we take you back to when you started, you said it was you and Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Take me back to when, like, are you running the daycare at that time, doing fine? Like, what
Yeah.
was your what was your day in the life 15 years ago?
Great question. It was wild.
But
So
was
Aaron
it
and
just so fun though?
It was so fun,
Yeah.
but also scary,
Yeah.
right? Because it's the unknown. Aaron and I didn't get a paycheck for the first 3 years of ProCare.
Mm.
We would reinvest the money back into our programs, whether it's we knew we wanted to expand our center one day, so saving, adding new toys, adding new marketing material, having the outsource, whether it's the accounting, all of that. So it costs a lot of money to get into business. But Aaron and I, we saw the bigger picture. We saw what ProCare, the potential of ProCare was. So when we first opened it, we were everything. We were the educators on the floor in the evenings. We were coming up with our marketing ideas. We were writing out our new contracts or adding new policies. Because when you start up a new business, policies come into place because of experience, right? Our first policy handbook might have been 5 pages long.
Mhm.
Our one now it's a novel because you just continue to build and grow your business and your systems. Um, but when ProCare first opened, we were only a before and after school program. So in the middle of the day, I was a nanny. I was cleaning houses. I was doing anything to make some extra income, and then we'd be the housekeepers of ProCare, cleaning it, educating the children, coming up with all of the administrative aspects of it, door to door knocking, going to any festival or workshop with balloons and pamphlets. So we wore every single hat. And now that we have educators who are able to be on the floor, our position has shifted, but our hearts are always going to be on the floor. So we will make a point to never let go of that side of us.
And when you talk about partnership, entering a partnership, especially in business, is like entering a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find Aaron, and how's that partnership going?
Great question. We always joke that we're work wifeys.
Yeah.
We are together through thick and thin, ups and downs. We worked together for 4 years in a classroom in the same room, and we realized that we just aligned. We had very similar work ethics, and we also have very different skill sets,
Right.
which I think is very important. If you are entering into a partnership and you and your potential partner have the exact same skill sets, consider that a little bit more because then that could cause some conflict in the future. Erin allows me to run with my skill sets and I allow her to run with hers. So we joke that together we become one person.
Mm.
So we worked together before we jumped into business. And full transparency, Aaron and I have never been in an argument. We've never even had a disagreement. We've had conversations, which we look at it that in business and marriage, in anything, conversations are going to be expected, but we schedule them in advance. So every month we'll sit down, anything you want to discuss about the business, any goals that you have, anything you want to see change or shift. What can I do to support you better as my partner? Those kind of conversations are always taking place. Another important thing is when your business grows to have staff and clientele and it grows beyond just the partnership, it's important that you guys establish the trust and, as I mentioned, the communication, where if I have there's no hidden secrets between us. I would not want someone to go up to Erin and share something that would make her feel like I haven't um, opened up about this or anything. What I'm trying to say is we've established a relationship that is very honest and open, and I know her intentions with ProCare and with me are pure, and my intentions with ProCare and her are pure. So if she ever felt any kind of feeling, talk to me, and then I can either make a correction in something or I can explain it better. And because we both know we need to work well together for ProCare to succeed and for our team to feel like they have strong leaders, that's just a non-negotiable for us.
And when people start partnerships, typically they're excited,
Hmm.
they jump in, they don't have a partnership agreement in place. I mean, did you guys have a partnership agreement?
No,
No, like
we
it
didn't.
was more of a natural.
Natural, yes, we didn't have a partnership agreement at first. We kind of just thought about what color are we painting the rooms?
Mm.
What toys are we going to get? What is our business name going to be? We sat in a library for months looking up labor board laws and how to open a business and what are the requirements in our specific field. So we didn't even think of a partnership agreement, truthfully, until it got more into like the legal component of things, like you're starting a business, you're getting your business number. So when that started taking place, we looked at it. What if one of us had an unfortunate situation? How are we protecting each other and the business? So that's when we started having more of a deeper discussion around a partnership agreement. And in that partnership agreement, it also outlines essentially just full transparency and honesty with each other. That needs to be the foundation. Because if I'm hiding something from Erin, that's going to break her trust with me or vice versa. So we look at it that just like with families and parents, we need to be transparent with how we're caring for your child and what takes place in the day. That's how we build that trust. Even with us, we need to be transparent with each other. So then that way it's just honest.
And if I take you back even further, did you come from an entrepreneurial family?
I did. Yes. My dad was a contractor, a master plasterer. So he had PFL Construction, which my brother has taken on the company. So the company is still running to this day. And my mom did catering professionally. I'm from an Italian family. So we have masonry, we have stucco workers. My grandfather had his own company as well in the construction field. So I've always been surrounded by entrepreneurs and people that found passion in their work. And that to me was inspiring.
And is that what triggered you to start ProCare? Was it like the passion in your work? Oh, I have to start a business. Like, was that the only way in your mind?
I feel like in my industry, I felt that could be the only way that I can make bigger moves beyond just a classroom. I felt if I was, employed for an agency, which is a great experience to have. I saw for myself, I wanted to do more. I wanted to do bigger things. So ProCare, we're now offering workshops. We're doing birthday parties. We have weekend play
How
groups
did
and
you know
events.
that at 22 years old? And I'm trying to dive into that
Yeah.
individual that's maybe when did you start? How old were you when you started ProCare?
ProCare was 22. I was 22.
22. So how did you know? I mean, the risk, the partnerships, the opportunity, the like, there's two ways to look at
You're
a
right.
business. It's like, oh my God, I'm taking on debt. This is a lot of liability,
Yes.
but more liability in your industry
Than
than
most. Yeah.
than most. You're taking care of kids.
Yes.
Like there's two sides to the coin. How did you like dig so deep in your gut to be like, okay, I'm going to sit at a library,
Yes.
research all the policies and procedure because that's not what you enjoy doing. You
No,
enjoy being with the kids,
you're right.
but you have to do all this other stuff to get there.
Yes.
Um, what was it in that?
I feel like from a young age, I've always been very driven. I would work 3 jobs, I would be babysitting. I've always kind of wanted more for myself. So at that young age, it it became I want to prove to myself I could do something big. I could do something great. Um, but also there's definitely fear in there. Another part is I joke that I was young and naive, right? I was so young that those bigger fears that we talk about now that are really real, at that age, I'm like, I could do this. It's fine. I'll have this. I would find an answer for that problem. Now that I'm older and I really grasp you know, the risk in a sense in the
Right.
industry that I'm in, that's where it's a different angle, a different lens that I look through. But at that young age, I was determined to do it, to prove to myself I could do something amazing and fun and hard and scary. So I find too at a young age, I was always fascinated by entrepreneurship or people that took risk on their careers. So in listening to different um, audiobooks, reading books, watching different not educators, watching different professionals, it just inspired me to what can I do?
So, what would you recommend that 22-year-old or 23-year-old do if they're thinking about starting a business?
Find a mentor, talk to someone that has already um, achieved something that inspires you. It may not it doesn't have to be in the same industry that you're wanting to go in, but you could talk to them about their journey. And a lot of it is the work ethic, but the grit. You need to be able to be disciplined. You need to be able to set aside time to hyper focus on whatever goal that might be. Maybe you're on a fitness goal, maybe you're in school studying. Even university, college students at the age of 22, they might have a part time job and they're studying for these big exams and have goals to become a lawyer or a doctor, an engineer, different trades, right? So I feel like even at that age, they are putting into practice the skill sets to do something big. It may be safer where they're trying to get a job and find an employer and don't think beyond that opportunity that, oh, I should just get a job versus that schooling, that education. You're already putting in those practice, that skills that you could transfer that into opening a business. If you're studying for an exam, study for the industry that you're looking into. If you're showing up for work, show up for what you commit yourself to on an entrepreneurial level. Maybe you're going to a networking event. It's scary, but go, shake hands, talk to people.
And how do you get over that fear? Like, even coming on this podcast, I
Yeah.
remember 6 months ago, you're like, I see you posting online and I want to do it. I
Yeah.
just, maybe the scare of judgment and
Very much so.
whatnot. And then I'm like, just do it.
Mhm.
And then next day you're posting, you're going, you're like, and you haven't stopped, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people would stop after a week or 2 weeks. It's like, yes, Tiff, like,
Thanks.
keep
My fear
doing
is
it.
posting myself, though. If you notice, what I post is the work that I'm doing.
Mm,
It's very hard for me to do a video and talk to the camera.
yeah,
Right now, having a conversation with you, Dave, is easier for me because
yes,
we're able to discuss. If I have a topic idea that I want to post as a video,
yeah,
it will take me a long time. Sometimes I'll record it and then never post it.
yeah,
I still struggle with that.
yes,
Even doing this podcast, I was saying to Connor this morning, I'm nervous.
yes,
Like, I don't know, what are we going to talk about? And he's like, Tiff, be yourself, talk about what you know.
right,
And everyone, all humans, we all have the scary thoughts and the scary, sentences in our head. And it's a fear of judgment, it's a fear of
yeah,
failure. I mean, on this podcast, I might say, I might,
mm,
you know, hesitate, I
overthink or
might
whatever.
overthink in moments, but I'm doing it
Yeah.
and I'm showing up for my businesses and for myself. And I'm going to feel great well, I'm feeling great now,
Well, and how do you get over that anxiety part, like that hill?
Yeah. I do a lot of listening to pump up music.
Okay.
For me, that really helps me get into a headspace of, I got this. I can do this. Show up and give it a go. Maybe Well, I have a farm, I have animals. So sometimes it might be meditating with my animals and just having quiet time outside in nature and being present in that moment, because that quiet moment's coming back.
Mm.
Do the scary moment and then come back to my quiet moment.
And that's where growth happens.
Yes, that's exactly where growth happens. I remember my first TV interview. Um, I was sick
Mm.
just before going on, very sick. And I couldn't even hear what the interviewer was asking me in the questions because I felt like there was a hum
Yeah.
happening in my ears. Like, what's going on with me?
That's good.
And I feel like every time I would do something like that, it got easier. It got easier. And even today, this is so much easier than what it would have been 15 years ago. But I think when you have a little bit of that fear, it's showing you that you're really living.
Right.
And if we run from that, then we're just being overly comfortable. So every human is different, and you're going to gauge where you fit on, some entrepreneurs. For example, my business partner, she would never come on here, and she wouldn't even be mad with me saying that. We have different skill sets.
Right.
Erin is absolutely fascinating and so smart and so driven, but she'd rather be behind the scenes.
Mm.
And maybe when you're doing a partnership, for any new entrepreneur listening to this, consider that. If you are talking with your potential partner and they don't want to do any interviews or don't want to be in, the front line of your business, that's okay.
Mm.
Don't put that pressure on them. Maybe they'll excel in other areas.
Do you think it would have worked out if she wanted to be on the front line?
I would have loved her to be on the front line
Okay.
with me.
Okay.
There's been so many times I'm like, come join me on this video or do the interview. She's always supportive. This morning on the drive in, she's calling me, being Tiff, you're going to do great. When I have my TV interviews, she's sitting in the observation room watching. And so she's always, always supporting me on that.
And do you think that, I don't want to bring in the male women thing, but there's an ego with two males. Is there an ego with two women?
There can be. Yeah,
Like,
there can
how do
be.
you leave it? Like, how do you, like, when you say, of course I want her on, like,
Yeah.
take the spotlight with me.
Yes.
I feel like maybe two males would be like, no, I want the spotlight.
Yeah.
Give me the freaking spotlight. You go do the back end.
Yeah.
How do you remove that ego and have such trust with it?
Yeah, I do feel like because of our industry and our careers, we work with children. So I look at every single child in my program as capable, competent, and full of potential, right? So are we. We were children at one point and we are now adults. So when we become adults, it's almost like there's a different standard. It's a different expectation. And I choose myself to look at every human as like, if it's not working out now, it could work out later, or you can do this. And maybe Erin, if you're watching this and listening, maybe next time she'll jump in with me, and that would be fantastic. But if she doesn't, that's great too, because she's doing what works for her. So I do feel like if we look at colleagues or just other people as they're doing their best and they're trying, that should be more than enough in a way. And honestly, if everyone was an entrepreneur, the world wouldn't work. Right. So we need entrepreneurs. We need people that rather work for a company or work in the government, or people that would rather, travel the world and get more insight that way and create the blogs. Like, there's a place for everyone.
Right. So now you're in the library doing research. You've started a before and after school program. You and Erin are rolling up your sleeves and painting and picking names and putting yourself out there. How does it now evolve? Like, when do you hire your first employee?
Yes.
You were obviously doing all the before and after school handling
Yes.
to build the policies.
So when I got the job with Algonquin, that would have been, I believe, in 2013. That's what allowed us to really start hiring people on, because I just felt more confident beyond just an interview that this individual, this professional would work well with our center. And
so what did you do at Algonquin?
I still work at Algonquin, and I do field placement supervision. So I'm a liaison. So that means I visit agencies all across the city when students are doing their co-op, and I observe and assess them with hands-on practice. So them actually engaging in a classroom setting versus just the theory and the paperwork behind it. They're putting that into practice. And I've taught the music and movement course at Algonquin.
And did you do that for a recruitment perspective too.
I did it for recruitment. I did it because I went to Algonquin. I'm an alumni and I really enjoyed the program. I also did it for professional growth.
Mm.
When I first started in that position, I was terrified walking into these agencies and having to do some mediation amongst students and on sites because it's not always butterflies and rainbows, right? So you have to kind of step in and help navigate conversations or challenges. And I feel like that has really, really helped me in my role as a director and managing teams and just other sort of avenues that I go down.
So now you're doing recruitment.
Hmm.
You're at Algonquin finding the best employees to work with you that resemble your core values.
Yep.
And now are you hiring?
Yep.
Like
So
you're
I've hired and um, then the whole other learning curve is going through the training process, right? And making sure your contracts are up to date because when you work independently, you don't have all that HR stuff set up
right.
because it's more you're working for yourself, you're working for your own company. And that's when the policy binder started to really start to grow. But yeah, so we now hire educators, they're working alongside of us. And even with that, there were many speed bumps and many hurdles. When I first started hiring, I would become very close with my staff. I wanted them to feel that I saw them, that I respected them, that I valued them,
Mm,
but I didn't go about it in the right way. I went about it almost like we are best friends and we are equals. In business, it's business. It is work. So you need to have a separation of your personal life and your work life.
mm.
It is I absolutely encourage all leaders, all directors and managers to have a respectful relationship with their teams because that if we think about it, we work more than we have time off. So you want your work culture to be positive, inclusive, and supportive. But you want to also make sure that you're maintaining that professional boundary.
You have to have the tough conversations.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I was terrified of the tough conversations. I would avoid them. And then realizing if I'm having a tough conversation,
An extra
I'll see
conversation.
resolution,
Yeah.
right? And then if I have to write up a staff member, that will from there protect ProCare, protect the
Right.
company if anything is required. When ProCare first
And
opened,
potentially help the person too. Like
absolutely
they don't know.
pro
Yeah.
yes, because if they don't know and we're not sharing that
Yeah.
with them, they're going to continue doing whatever that is,
Right.
and they're not given the opportunity to
Be
grow.
coached on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I realize after a few employees that it is better just to be authentic, have the tough conversations, do it respectfully, and do it calmly. Because sometimes when we have challenging conversations, we'll feel our heart rate, we'll
Mm,
feel our hands get clammy. Maybe we're rushing through it.
mm.
Maybe we're using language that can be more accusatory than just a conversation. And those are things to be mindful of too.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good point because you want that positive culture. You want that friendship because that breaks barriers down.
Yeah.
But then you also need that line in the sand to be like, hey, hopefully everything goes well, but that's
Yep.
not life.
That's not life.
Right. So,
Yeah.
like, those tough conversations are going to happen.
Yes.
And if you're too close with the individual, those conversations actually become even harder
You're
to
right.
have because you just won't have them.
Mhm.
And then it's not good for the person, you, or the business.
Absolutely. One of my employees had a really close relationship with Aaron and I, and I don't like to use the word jealousy, whether that may be the case. Long story short, had filed a complaint against us with the College of ECEs. And if you're not aware, the College of ECEs, sorry, the College of ECEs gives educators their registration. So it allows us to practice professionally. Filed a complaint where Aaron and I were investigated for a year, but
Wow.
the complaint had no grounds.
Right.
It was all fabricated. And this employee didn't realize that the process is a very open, transparent complaint process. Every name is shared, and you have an opportunity to respond to each other through the college mediating
Mm,
this. When this employee had found out that her name was disclosed on it, it was let's backtrack.
right.
None of the I don't know what to do. This didn't happen. Avoid,
Right.
eject, right? And but ultimately, the investigation had to take place.
Right.
And that was heartbreaking for
Yeah.
me because nothing had taken place. I've only given my heart and my mind to this person, and why would they do this to us? And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. People are individuals, and life isn't perfect. And whatever that person was going through felt the need to vent or share something that wasn't true. The case was deemed dismissed. There was no found evidence against anything, and we move on from that. In that experience, I have more respect for the college because I do see that they do their due diligence to keep our industry safe. And I was very impressed with the process that we were able to respond, and there was no secretive or just this person said this is now facts. I'm really happy that how they handled it. So it makes me actually feel more protected as an educator. And as an educator, if you are, doing things according to the code of ethics, you don't have anything to worry about. And yeah, so in that staffing journey, that was a burn. That hurt. That hurt me beyond, just a professional level. That was personal for me. And from that moment on, I established a different relationship with employees, um, where they know they can come to me and we have a great working relationship. But ultimately, I need to protect ProCare, and I also want to, protect myself and the families. So it is a very professional relationship.
It's funny because I've been sued multiple times. It's just part of the game.
Yeah.
And but you also can't, like, you think of a 2-year-old
Hmm.
and they have no predetermined experience is until they're born till they're 2.
You're right.
So very limited. We have so many more because we're 37 years old.
Yep.
When you started your business, you were free.
Hmm.
You were naive, you said.
Yes.
You had openness to everything. If you started another business, how do you get to that openness knowing all the things that potentially could go wrong?
I don't think you can get to that openness in the same capacity, right? Because every time, like even as you mentioned, a 2-year-old, if they're falling off a certain step,
Yeah.
you're going to notice they're going to be more cautious on that step, right? Um, they're learning about the world around them through real life experiences. That's how children learn. That's why play is so important because they're in their little play world. That's a real experience that their imaginary play or whatever they're setting up. So for us as adults, when we have an experience that stands and sticks with us, and that helps us grow and just have more wisdom around
Mhm.
that area. So I feel like opening another business, I would be starting at other businesses just with more boundaries and more protection and more paperwork behind what I'm doing versus it just being so open and free and we'll figure it out, which we did figure it out, but there were some bumps and bruises on the journey.
It's funny because I'm starting this new business, and when I started my first business, it was like $500 to start.
Yeah.
Now I'm at thousands because it's legal fee here, setting up this thing, setting up this thing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this was used to be so much easier.
Yeah. But it's because you're aware,
Yeah.
you have that experience. So you're setting up this business essentially ready to rock from the get go versus your other one, you would just keep building on that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So you would have spent the same amount, but over time, where
probably.
now
Right.
it's like right away because you're aware.
Yeah, very good point. So now you're hiring employees, you're going through it. Where's ProCare now?
So ProCare, we're at 78 Holland
Yeah.
address wise, but where are we? We have about 16 staff, including supplies that are on our staff list. We have a 200-person wait list just to join the center. We offer a toddler program, a preschool program, a camp, and then we do our workshops and birthdays and weekend events. Um, and we are very happy where we're at. ProCare, I don't see us growing other centers. So back in 2019, Aaron and I wanted to open centers all across Ottawa. That was our goal. We had talked about
Yeah.
this being okay. This is what the
Yeah.
plan is. COVID hit, changed the world for everyone. Then I had a very bad accident. I was in a wheelchair for 3 months. I had to learn how to walk again. I have 2 plates and 20 screws forever in my right ankle, and I had sprained my left in the same scenario. So I had to pull back for a while just to recover my mental health and my physical health.
Mhm.
And then the government put in a new program, the QUELC program, which is an excellent program for families because it does make childcare more affordable. And I feel it does create more of a professional recognition for our industry. But in that starting, there's some learning curves. As we're talking about, as any entrepreneur, any kind of business, you're figuring out. So the government released this new program, and there were just a few areas that needed to be ironed out over the years. But as a business owner or directors who are working for licensed agencies, it was a huge learning curve for us. And going through that, there's just a few more scenarios that make it a little bit harder to open up new businesses. Because if you open up a new center and it's not part of the Quelk program, then it's a full fee program.
Mm.
And that is very expensive for families. It is not affordable to send your child to a full fee program. But at the same time, full fee programs, every cent is accounted for.
Mm.
The professionals need professional wages. We need professional and proper materials. We want good products to be, using for cleaning, or you also want to make sure you have the right nutrition that you're giving to your children. So all of that comes with a cost. But for us, ProCare, we're going to keep it at our one location and really focus and put our whole hearts into this building so that it, for many, many, many years, is helping raise future generations.
Well, and the thing too is growth doesn't always mean better, right? Like
Mhm.
you have a staff there, you have the foundation. Once you start growing, it changes things too. Like,
You're right.
let's say if you have 5 locations, well, that's 5 different policies, 5 different cultures, 5 different everything. Like, there's something to say to have one have a 200-person wait list where you know now that it's sustainable, it's a mature business
Mhm.
at the end of the day, right? Like I think we've talked about the evolution of a business being in, teenage years to
Mhm.
the 30s,
Yes.
40s. Like it is in the where it's doing its thing.
It's
It's
doing
it's
its thing.
generating the
It's
money.
able to operate truthfully on its own.
Right.
If Aaron and I were to completely step back, we never would, but I do believe that it would be able to operate on its own, essentially, which is, it's a mature business. It's now kind of able to leave the nest, right? It can kind of operate independently. And to your point, of having more centers or even just more businesses, brick and mortar for other companies, doesn't always mean you're gaining more out of it. You're gaining more work. So when Aaron and I kind of had the break because of COVID and just sort of really reflected on what's our next steps going to be, are we opening more pro cares? True, in our industry, it is ratio based. That means you need so many adults per children at all times in the center. If you do not have an adult in the center, you would have to, one, close down that room or have parents pick up so that ratio is always met. So in a toddler classroom, it's one teacher to 5 children. In a preschool classroom, it's one teacher to 8 children, and ratios go up as children age. And in an infant room, we don't have them, but it's one teacher to 3 children. So if I have an educator calling in sick, I have to go through my supply list. And if none of my supplies are available, what's the next step, right? If I had 5 centers, and a bunch of centers I have people calling in sick, or this takes place because life happens, the amount of stress that I would have in the mornings, I wake up very early every morning in anticipation potentially someone isn't going to be able to go to work.
Mm.
So what is my plan A, B, C? If I had more centers, I feel that it would not be gaining more for me on a positive side of things. It would just be very stressful and overwhelming and expensive. So that's where, as we had our discussion, we looked at it that, yeah, it would look really great to say we have 5 ProCares across the city and we could work with so many more families. But then maybe our main location or our reputation may not be as strong because there's so many balls in the air. So for us, we just felt keeping the one location would be, you know, best.
And I'm gonna say something now
Yeah.
that might. Okay, so Canadians love their
Mhm.
rules and regulations, which in childcare, 100%.
Mhm.
But we also the other side of the story is there's 200 families on the wait list that
Mm.
if they were able to touch what I see for my kids in your center, how much more impactful
Yes.
would that be? And I think there has to be a balance
Mhm.
of rules and regulations, but also let the entrepreneur grow.
Yes.
Because, like, even in accounting, the amount of different forms that have to happen now than 10 years ago or 15 years ago when I started,
Mm-hmm.
it's tenfold. So now someone that wants to start a business, no wonder why the fees keep on increasing, because there's more work for
Work through it.
everything.
Yes.
And I think I respect the fact that there's all these rules in place.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I feel sorry for too is the 200 people waiting.
I do
And
too.
where are they going to go? Like,
Right?
people are not opening up centers. People are
No.
not diving into this.
Yes.
So now you have a backlog of people that are in worse position than
Mm-hmm.
maybe looking at the system and being like, okay, how do I remove some of these roadblocks
Yes.
that could help you have those 5 locations, but
Mm-hmm.
not feel so overwhelmed to actually do it,
Yes.
right? Because that's what entrepreneurship is.
I agree. And I feel that as the government is rolling out this Quelk program, there could potentially be more funding that is offered.
Right.
And if more funding is available, then more centers can open for sure. They're also just sort of navigating their budgets because it's a federal program and there's a lot of money invested in that. So I feel like in our industry, even home daycares are, most of them are not part of the Quelk program. Some might be able to get in if they're under a licensed body, but yeah, if you're a home daycare and you're full fee, what I've heard from some home daycares is when parents get a spot in a Quelk program, they're pulling out. So what one of the main issues is turnover of staff or turnover of families frequently. So it's hard to kind of get into a rhythm with a group of children that will be with you for the next 4 years or the next 8 months or however long, depending on their age in enrolling in that program. So I do feel if there was more funding available, we would see more centers opening up around the city, which is something I think is needed. You know, every agency I talk to, there are huge wait lists for all programs, and there is a need of childcare.
So what do those people do?
They stay home. They might have family
Are they
support.
emailing you too, like constantly being
Yeah.
like, any openings?
Emails, calls, check-ins every month. What number are we on the wait list? So that's a whole other part of our job that some people may not consider, right? Is just the inflood of inquiries and messages that and it's really hard. I feel like in my job, I have such a rewarding career,
Mm,
but then I say more no's than I do yes
right.
because of the amount of people that
Yeah, you
are
can only hold,
so many families.
right,
So
because it's by square feet
exactly
of how many people
how
can
many
be.
children are allowed in a classroom or
Right.
yeah. So it's hard because I feel like I disappoint a lot of people, or some people might feel they're guaranteed a spot in one of our programs, which is not the case. We do have to go through the centralized wait list. We also have our in-house families as they get pregnant, they get priority because their
Mhm,
children are already enrolled, and a lot of that is not something we can predict, right?
mhm.
Families don't always say, we're planning on having a kid. They'll tell you when they're already pregnant.
Yeah.
And so some of these things we can't plan around. And I feel really, really bad when I just want to say, our doors are open.
Yeah.
Everyone come in.
Yeah.
I wish I could.
Yeah. No, because I mean, to say a testimony of like anyone that has the opportunity to be in your center. I mean, you talk about the development age at 2, 3,
Hmm.
4. Those are the most important years.
Most important formative years.
And
Yeah.
why are they?
Because children at that age, the world is brand new. They don't have any, um, like you were mentioning earlier, like sort of preconceived notions of things. They are an open book. They're ready to learn. And because we're helping children not only form life skills, but they're building their character and their trust about the world and the people that are in their world. So if we look at every moment as a learning opportunity, whether through song, through story, through puppet play, and allow the children to lead their play where our educators are observing that and then scaffolding on that interest. Children learn more when they're interested. Even us, if we're interested in what we're reading about or listening to, we're going to pull up more nuggets out of that, right? Or if you're just logging into something and you're not as invested, you might zone out. So for children at this young age, if we can help stimulate their brain, in a way that is something that is of interest and that is exciting for them, um, that really helps them ongoing on their learning journey.
And another, like, we talk about nutrition.
Hmm.
My youngest son is at Pro Care, and at home, to get him to eat anything, it's like impossible.
Yes.
And then I see the reports that I get, and he had 6 chicken pot pies yesterday.
Yes.
And then he rolls in and he goes, Debo, Debo, what are we eating today?
Yes.
And she comes out, chicken pot pie. And they all like cheer. Like, how do you develop the menu, and
Mhm.
how do you get that, mind flowing where
Yes.
they're just growing? And
I always like to say to parents, when your child's at home and doesn't want to eat or doesn't want to do things that at daycare we say they are thriving in, don't feel bad. Don't beat yourself up because there's a power in numbers. So
mm,
when you're at ProCare or at any agency, they have their own little family, their own little community, right? And it is very structured in our structure of our day. Where families, when you get home, you might have a set dinner time, but then maybe one parent is going to get the bath running. Maybe, there's ebbs and flows of life. We're at ProCare. Okay, it's now we're prepping them before it's time for lunch. So we have a certain music. We have our circle time. They wash their hands, then they head to the table. They have their chair with their picture on it. So it's a sense of like pride. And they sit at the table. Everyone's taking bites, even the teachers together. We're talking about our food. And it just becomes a power of numbers. It's a
mm,
supportive environment where everyone is excited to have another bowl. Oh, David's having another bowl.
mm.
I want another bowl.
Right.
Right. So we kind of, even though at home with your family, you're going to do the same thing, it's just different. Even us as adults at home, we might do something different than we would do if we had an audience watching us.
Mm,
Well, we should. That's
mm,
typically what would take place. So with Debo,
mm,
Chef Deb,
mm,
she is famous at our center. She makes amazing meals all from scratch. She plans out the menu um, based on nutritional facts and what the children are enjoying. So if she puts out a meal that may not have had as many children wanting to eat it, which honestly doesn't really happen, or if her serving plate comes back with some food, she'll talk to the teachers. She'll ask, what was their feedback? What should I have added? Was there too many options? Or, it's very much that level of communication. And with Debo and Chef Deb, she's in the kitchen. So the children have that opportunity before going outside to play when they arrive to go check in on her. What's for lunch? What's for snack? It smells good. So they're almost anticipating and getting ready for what's to come in that meal. They're also so busy all day long that they get hungry once we have our scheduled eating time. When they get home, they they've ate a lot at daycare.
yeah.
So if he's not as hungry, we also got to look at children as being capable to express how they feel.
Mm,
As adults, we want to make sure we're doing everything possible to make sure the children are eating and warm and all of those things. But if we let them also advocate a little bit of, well, I'm not hungry, should we force them to eat? Even at ProCare, if a child's not hungry, we'll save their bowl. And when they're hungry, okay, now we're sitting at the table.
mm,
So then it allows them to kind of have agency
mm,
on their body and their feelings. So if he ate a lot at ProCare, he might not be as hungry at dinner time. And maybe he's thirsty more. Maybe give him some more water. Or if it's a behavioral thing, then let's track that and figure out how we can have we're sitting at the table. And that's a whole other discussion. But I have in my career for so many years, families are like, they won't do this at home. And I'm like, that's their safe place. When they go home, they're able to kind of take off any of the layers or the filters and just be themselves. So if they're tired or if they're not hungry or you'll have food in the fridge, put their plate aside and speak with them. Are you feeling hungry? We have yummy chicken pot pie ready to go. When you're ready, we'll sit at the table. Dad will sit with you, that kind of language. So then your child knows if I'm hungry, I have food, but I don't have to sit down and it's a battle to make them eat at that specific time when you're hungry, but they may not be.
And on the Saturdays and Sundays when
Mhm.
you're at home, what do you recommend a parent do?
A lot of outdoor time
No,
because,
from a nutrition
oh,
perspective,
sorry,
from a food perspective.
from a food perspective.
Like,
So
do you still keep the same structure? Like, the same routine as a play
Yeah.
care as
I would
regular?
say if you kept the same routine, knowing that they eat, whether it's the breakfast, they have a morning snack at like that 8:30 mark, they're eating at 11:30, lunch before their nap. Keeping that same routine, their body is now on that time schedule of when they need to eat. But also, children are how am I trying to word this?
Well,
Um,
and I'm thinking about the mom or dad that
yeah,
are at home taking care of their kid, and the power in numbers is not there.
not there.
What would you recommend?
Sit with your child when they're eating. Don't be distracted yourself. Have your phone down. Talk about the food that you're eating. And with children in early years, it's a lot of repetition. So it's not like, oh, we did it last night, they'll know it tonight. Every night we're gonna share the kind of the same, or lunchtime, whatever it is, you're gonna have the same routine of, all right, we washed our hands, we're gonna sit down. I'm eating soup. Look at, I'm using my spoon. You're kind of adding language to what you're doing. You're role modeling it. Oh, that's a big bite. Does that taste yummy? And connecting with your child during that meal time. Find children really thrive when they feel that attachment and that connection. So if we're just giving them something and we have another thing on our agenda we need to tackle, or if we're sitting there and showing impatience, come on, you need to eat. There's your food. Let's eat. Come on. That's pressure. And even for us as adults, if we feel pressure, we might get nervous. Now we're not hungry,
Right.
right? So if we're sitting with them more on an organic way of, we in young years, it's child-led life, right? So if your child's going to be at the table for a little bit longer and playing with their food a little bit, maybe they're having some of that sensory experience. If you're noticing they're doing a lot of play with their food, set up a sensory play before you feed them.
Which is
Have
what?
Maybe you're gonna cook some noodles. Maybe you're gonna have some water and soap that you're putting in with cornstarch. So things are like they have to find it in a bowl. Maybe you're gonna put out um, some Play-Doh or make Play-Doh with them, where they get to put the flour in and mix it together. So again, that attachment, that connection, they're getting that sensory output. Now we're ready to sit down and eat.
Gotcha. So that's the nutrition thing. Now, the my son plays all day.
Hmm.
He comes home. He isn't that hungry. And now you can definitely tell throughout the years. We were always like at the beginning with my first son, being like, okay, you got to eat, you got to eat. We made a dinner, but he would
Hmm.
never be hungry.
Hmm.
Now with Francesco, it's more like kind of here's the snacks,
Yeah.
eat what you want, kind of move on. But from we we dropped them off at 8, we picked them up at 3:30. From 3:30 to 7:30, what's the ideal evening look like?
Hmm. I would say the ideal evening, every home is different. Every night will look different. So it may not be a Monday to Friday. Every evening is going to look the same. I actually think changing some of it up is exciting for your child. So, putting down your own devices and really giving them eye contact and letting them lead the play. Maybe you're going to be playing superheroes. Maybe you're going to go on a nature walk in the neighborhood and let's collect a centerpiece. Let's go for a walk. We're going to get a leaf. We might get some grass. Maybe he found a really cool stick. And then you're putting that in the middle of the table. Now we're sitting down. We're going to eat around what we gathered together. So you're also kind of building on that experience, that attachment,
So really getting them to be creative.
getting them to be creative, getting them to be part of what is taking place versus it's just being told. Like we pick you up at daycare, because when they're at daycare, they get tons of free play, structured play that's offered right at different stations. And that is not always feasible to then copy and do at home because they've been busy all day at home. Maybe you guys are just going to snuggle on the couch and read a cool book together. Maybe you're going to be, looking outside a window and playing I Spy. Different games that are intentional and filled with a connection, but for us adults can feel boring or a waste of time. But for children, it's meaningful time. That is the deepest type of play you can do with them is being silly and it not always making sense and pivoting with them. And then you'll find that when you have to enforce any behavior guidance, it is going to be a little bit smoother for you because you've established so much more of that connection. Being their parent, you're already connected with them. But when we think about the intentional connection beyond that, it is a bit of work, but that short term work is better for the long term gain.
Mm. And I think as parents, we're just so busy
Yeah.
getting the grocery, doing all the stuff in the evening routine. Sometimes we forget the importance of this. But like the deep learning, the
Hmm.
creativeness, the sitting, the putting all the devices in a
Yeah.
box and just paying attention, because sometimes it's just so much easier to be on your phone or watch a
Hmm.
Netflix show or whatnot. But when is it a good time to do that? Like
Great question.
yeah. Is
Yeah.
there like a half an hour, or
I
like,
would say again, I don't want to make any parent feel they're being judged or
yeah,
criticized, because parents, you guys have the hardest jobs, and
yeah,
it's amazing what you do, and you love your children. You do the best you can. So in my view, as long as you're doing the best you can, that's amazing. But when it comes to the amount of time, I would say half hour is a good amount of time, max an hour. If it goes beyond that, they can have a little bit of that brain rot. It
mhm,
can be harder for them to get off, because studies have shown the it's very addictive
yeah,
to be on these devices. And even for us adults, we might notice that we're on it more than we should be. So what I've personally started to do is be more intentional with when I'm using my device, or compartmentalize. So like this hour is my block to do anything on socials, to check my emails, to do this, and now I'm not looking at my phone every few seconds and you know um what's the term?
re-scrolling.
Yeah, re-scrolling
Yeah.
or getting my page. There's a term for that.
Mm.
Anyways, um,
But
yeah,
yes, yeah, like top of the page, like yeah,
yeah. So I feel like when we catch ourselves doing that, it's mindless work,
right.
right? So if we have groceries to do, we got to get bath time going. We have all these things to do in the evening as parents to get the children ready for bed. So if we're able to um, look at our phone, if you're picking up your child from daycare, sit in your car for a little bit longer, do what you need to do. Get yourself some of your own output time on the socials or on your emails. And then when you pick up your child, look at it that I'm going to be super intentional with you for the next hour and a half. And if they decide to wander off and want to do their own thing, look at that as a moment that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start tackling a laundry, do it with them. Children need to learn these life skills. So maybe grab laundry, would you? And if they're taking clothes and throwing it over the room, that's not them trying to be mischievous always. That's them getting cause and effect at younger ages. So then maybe set up a hamper and give them a whole bunch of clothes. Like try to toss it in the hamper, and then you're giving them an activity while you're able to tackle
Mhm.
something, instead of just putting them on the device. There are, if you head to ProCare's social page, I post a lot of different simple activities that can actually take
Mm.
quite a bit of time to entertain them. Give them tape and popsicle sticks, and give them painter's tape. So if they're taping it on your wall, you're not going to afterwards be, oh, that was duct tape now, or paint. And then it builds on that, right? So if it's painter's tape, it won't ruin your wall. They might build little bridges. They might end up, who knows where it goes to. So having a little having an activity bin ready to go with loose parts or easy materials can sometimes help them lead their own play without needing a parent with them, because it is good for children to learn how to play independently,
Yeah.
but that also depends on their ages, right? So when we get to the younger ages, they really depend on us to not only care for them, but to learn alongside them. So I always say we're co-learners with children. As they discover something, we may not be a master in the centipedes, right? But if they're looking at a centipede on the ground while we're outside, cool, let's build on that. What does a centipede do? Can we maybe make one? Maybe, just kind of as a parent, play and learn what your child's interested in alongside them. But when it comes to their devices, there are a few really good educational resources that you can have your child watch and listen to. I think being mindful of checking and supervising what they're clicking on, because the internet can be a scary place. You don't want to just leave them to their own device to then click, and where do they end up? Having child protective apps
Mhm.
around on your phones, I think that's extremely important, just to make sure that they don't get into a space that they're not supposed to be in. Madame Amy with Un, Deux, Trois, Pitsy Pas, she has wonderful French engaging music circles that are all online. Mitch Rachel, I know a lot of people have heard of her. And again, there's different types of whether it's an active video, maybe we're dancing with it. Technology is part of our world.
Mm,
So to say for children to not have it is not always possible.
mm,
And there are benefits to them understanding technology and learning how to use it before they enter into the world.
mm,
But as parents and educators, it's our obligation to protect them and to also monitor. So if we're giving them a device and just say 3 hours goes by and we're like, oh, I got all this done. But then the next day it's harder to take that device away. The next day it's harder. Now they're a teenager. Now they're in their own
yeah,
rooms. So
multiplies.
it multiplies. So by establishing, we're only going to do a half an hour in the evening, I would also recommend not just before bed.
Mm,
Because just before bed, now they're going to really try to prolong the bedtime
mm,
routine because they were more connected with the device or the show than they were with you.
mm,
And children understand that when they go to bed, it's a long period of time before they get to see you again.
mm,
And then the next day they're at school or at daycare. Um, they don't have concept of time
mm,
to the degree of being like, oh, I know I'll see dad in the morning, we'll do this. It's more, there's just something coming up, I'm going to bed and I may not be
mm.
with him for a bit. So, especially before bedtime, there are a lot of great sort of energy burst activities to do before bed that doesn't involve getting them dressed and going outside or making a lot of loud noises. Maybe you're going to do with pillows that we're going to like punch into the pillows, and maybe we're going to be rolling around the floor together. Maybe I'm going to take their legs and help their joints move and stretch because they may not be stretching it themselves. But as you're doing it, you're giving them eye contact. You're asking them what their favorite song is. Maybe you're playing the song, you're doing the actions. That is a very deep way of connecting with your child and a healthy way to connect with them to then help with the next transition.
And in your center, you said simplicity of toys.
Yes.
Why is that important? And like,
Great question.
like I just think of our toy room. I think we have every toy in Toys R Us in my house. So, and they only play with a few.
Yeah.
And even when you go in, it feels a little
Yeah.
overwhelming into like why what psychology is around that?
So, what I would say is when there are too many options for children, it's overstimulating. For them having an abundance of toys, where do I start? Where do I finish? What do I add into the mix? And then it becomes the game of let's dump every single thing out all over the floor. So we have potential hazards now that are in front of them of, or even for us, tripping over it. There's more things that are just overstimulating and can cause emotional breakdown, could cause a moment of irregulation in their own emotions, or even for us as adults, right? If we walk into a room, there's too much going on. It could be we might be a little short with things, and it's not about the play that's taking place, it's about the clutter around the play. ProCare, we have an abundance of toys as well, but it is a licensed center. It's not a home, and not every home has the luxury of having a storage room. Do you have a closet that you could put certain things away? Go through your toy inventory, I would say every few months. Donate. There's so many families that need toys. So if you find that something's really not being used, put it away for a few more months. If it hasn't even been looked at or played with or of an interest, donate off and let another family
And
get
is there like
use out of it.
like do you have a certain amount of toys in your area that you recommend? Is there
And
a
that's
rule?
depending on the size of the room,
Yeah.
I would say. So it's hard to give like a stat on that,
Yeah.
because if I go into someone's playroom and they have a large playroom, there might be way more toys available, but it's spread out in a different way, that it's like zones and stations. And but if you have a smaller room and you might be in an apartment, then I would say, all right, let's look at our room, our four walls. Let's only have max 20 large toys available and a few bins. But what are we filling with the bins? Lego is easy to dump back in and just put away. But if you're going to have like all the mini superheroes and mini cars and all the little mini gadgets and stuff, that's overwhelming. And if we're dumping that all into one box, it's hard for a child to take out that bin and know where that Superman was or know where that construction vehicle is. So I feel for children to learn how to navigate their own play space and be independent in it, label things, have visuals. So if you have a Lego bin, have a picture of a Legos on there. At young ages, it's a lot of role modeling and us cleaning up after them and showing them where it goes. But eventually, they will end up learning the pride they have in keeping a space that is tidy or organized somewhat, or where they know where their belongings are. Because we do want children to look at items not as just disposable, but as something that I need to care for and something that I'm going to play with and take care of.
And
And
do
that
you teach that? Like,
we teach that through role modeling
right,
and through intentional setups, right? So if we had too many things, it's hard to teach that,
right.
because then as I'm trying to tell a child in this area, oh, we want to make sure we take care of these bins already dumped over.
Mm,
So what we would have is we have an IKEA shelf, those opened ended shelves, and we might have one or three toys on each shelf that is easily displayed. So children could take it off. In the toddler ages, they really love dumping. That's part of their cause and effect. Let's fill up a bin and dump it. So let's have a dumping station. Maybe you have a sensory table with rice in it, and you have scoops and funnels and bowls or little buckets, and you're playing with them and you're dumping it over and over again. If your child is taking out toys and dumping it, come with me to the sensory table. I'm going to fill up this bucket. Let's see where we dump it. So instead of my language being, no, don't do that, stop that, let's redirect them to what we want
mhm,
them to do. That now they're at that area and they're dumping and they're digging and as they get older and they develop more language and more comprehension, oh, you want to do some dumping? Do you want to set up something else? Do you need more buckets? You could have that conversation with them. But when it comes to the amount of toys, it is hard to say in a home setting because every home layout is different. But if you yourself are walking into the room and you feel like there's too much, maybe certain things should be in the room, but just on a higher shelf. So
mhm.
in this room right now, we have a few shelves. Maybe I'll have a bunch more bins up top, and that's not accessible to the children. I will take down and rotate the toys. That way they feel like there's new toys available. So on a Sunday, maybe you're going to do a toy change up in your playroom. And you'll notice that they will spend a little bit more time with the new stuff that's laid out because it feels new to them. It looks different. It sparks a different part of their creativity or their imagination with that particular item. So,
So everything you think, like, is everything thought out?
yes.
Right. And that, did you learn that
Hmm.
like throughout the years of going to different centers and
Yeah.
applying it to your center?
Absolutely. I learned it through my own studies, my own hands on experience in working in my own center and other centers, and then visiting centers. There's some agencies that I've gone into that have an overabundance of stuff. It is very stimulating, even for myself being in the classroom and observing the students, where I could just see the regulation of emotion is not there. The children are overwhelmed. The educators are kind of, which way do I go? What's coming up next? Um, and then, even from my own experiences at ProCare, we had started off with lots of stuff being offered, but then the time it took to sanitize and disinfect every single toy, because in our
Mm,
agency, we want to make sure we're following health and safety practices and keeping children safe. And because you have multiple children in the same space, there's more germs.
mm,
So I looked at it. There's so many more pieces and items and little things to be cleaning. That takes a lot of time. And if we aren't doing it, are we actually meeting that standard?
mm,
So less is more in my view.
mm,
Having less available, everyone is playing with everything, and I'll notice if an area is not being used. So let's switch it out. Sensory table hasn't been visited in a while. Let's put something new in there. The shelves, the children are kind of just taking the vehicle off and dumping on the ground and running away. In my observation, that is not an area that the children are as interested in. So let's put out something different, and then you'll notice how they gravitate towards it or how they're playing. This term is called emergent curriculum in our field. So, emergent curriculum is constantly emerging. It's not, let's set up this one setup and now the children are fine in it. It is ongoing and always being adjusted and switched out and changed to meet their developmental needs, to meet their interests at the time, and to also provide them items and options that will help their growth and development.
And when you evolve the play
Mhm.
areas, is it every court? Like, are you doing it very consistently?
So
Or has it been to a point now you're 15 years, you kind of nailed down the
I
structure?
feel like now we've kind of nailed down the structure, but if you have a new team you're working with, or if you're starting a center, or if you're new into a management role, maybe it's
Or how about
something,
if you're at home?
yes, or
Like,
even if you're at home, maybe it would be something once a month, you might want to switch out, but watch how your children are playing with the toys. Are they just taking something and whipping it up the wall? Okay, let's put up a basketball net. Let's maybe put up some mat padding on the wall. And if that's an output that they need, how can we come up with that as a play? So maybe we're not using real balls. Maybe we'll use, the ball pit balls that are soft. They could whip that as hard as they want. It's not going to break a window, but their physical body is able to get that movement and that burst out. So I would say with the toy setup and the environment, always be looking at it at home. Once a month, maybe do like a toy switch out. Every few months, do a toy donation. Because what happens is if we keep collecting and keep collecting, then it ends up becoming overwhelming. And how do we start? Right. I remember when Aaron and I, our basement at ProCare felt like we were packed to the ceiling, to the walls. We barely had like a path to get through. So we spent hours and weeks, and even our team joined us in on this. And now every year, twice a year, we close the center down for a week for holidays. The day before we close, we have a half day at the center. And the afternoon, no children are in the program, but as a team, we organize, clean, and declutter a lot of items. So I want to look at our storage shelf, and it is very much like a toy store or an inventory. I find that helps. Even at home, if you look at your home as its own little business, and where do the scissors go? Where do the post-it notes go? Where, you have a system set in place, you'll find you're cleaning less and intentional more,
Mm.
because instead of everything, when we put it down, we just leave it. When we have to do the cleanup, what could have been 10 minutes is now 45 minutes, right? So those small micro habits actually become bigger picture, simpler in our systems. But yeah, for parents, every month, just look at your toy space. What are they playing with? What can we put in maybe move the table in a different area? Maybe move your storage shelf somewhere else. Have fun with it with them, but children don't have the capacity to know, like, okay, I'm ready to donate this. That's our job to teach and our job to implement that initially. And some items, I know parents are going to listen to this and be, oh, we tried to do it with the children and they don't want to get rid of anything. So that would be on your end, putting it away in the basement in a storage area. Wait a few months. Have they asked for it? Have they asked for it? If they haven't, then you'll make the decision, because that also helps children um, learn not to kind of hoard all of these items, because it's okay for it to go have another life with another family that would use the stacking blocks or whatever toys that you find they're not playing with anymore. But at that time, they may not be okay with giving away. You can also implement, as they get older, when one comes in, one goes out system.
Mm.
So if you really want this brand new sports car, this is a big piece that we're adding into the playroom. What are we going to donate to a family that can use it?
Mm.
So using that language also empowers your child that they're doing great, they're doing good. And we're not just throwing away your toy, and because you got something else, you don't get this anymore. The language is important.
Mm. And when we talk about overstimulating and eating right and doing all
Mhm.
those things, does that help with like I walk in, I don't see any behaviors. Like I could be naive towards it because it's
Mhm.
just drop off. But how do you handle behaviors? Is it all these little
All
steps?
these steps, and it's anticipation, it's preparation, it's really understanding each individual child. There are definitely moments where there are behaviors, because that's age appropriate. Children are not born with all the tools. We have to teach the tools. So at ProCare, I could speak on that. Children know what to expect because it's something that is consistent with them. So they have a clear understanding of what so yeah, so children have an understanding of what's to come, or they know that their educators are going to fill their needs as they ask for it, if that makes sense. So educators are observing the children. If we're noticing someone's getting a little fussy, maybe they would love to have a visit up in the office with Miss Sabrina or me or Miss Erin. Maybe we'll do a walk over to the kitchen and talk to Miss Deb. Um, Maybe we're gonna actually set up paper on the ground and put out a bunch of markers. Right away, that emotion is now being redirected to, like, okay, let's go ahead and now scribble all over the floor. Sometimes we think activities need to be set up. We're sitting at a desk, there's a piece of paper on the desk. It doesn't have to be that. Be creative. Put it on the walls, put it on the floor. Have a space that is really designed for your child. If it's in their bedroom and that's the only space you have, that's great. But yeah, pro care, when it comes to their behavior, it's a lot of observation, preparation, setting up the stations that they're interested in, changing them out often so they're not getting bored with all the exact same toys. Getting them outside is very important in regulating emotions. It's something, there's so many new studies coming out on the importance of mental health for all people, all humans to be getting outside, but especially in young children. So for them, getting that outdoor playtime really does help them overall integrate back into the classroom and follow the routine of the day.
And how long should they be outside for? What's the routine there?
Minimum 2 hours a day, children should be outside. More is better.
And do you do it in the morning and
Morning and afternoon, weather permitting. If they don't get to go outside, then we do a lot of gross motor play. We'll bring up our climbing mats. We have slides. We'll do a lot of dance movements and actions. And with children, especially at home, if you're putting on dance music, dance with them. And not only just for one song, spend 15 minutes grooving and dancing and moving, showing them how you can move your body. And then you're going to teach them different movements because you're going to notice they're going to dance harder and use up more of that energy with you participating in it.
and that helps with behavior. You said
Yep.
observe, so
Mhm.
you're watching them
Yep.
be in their environment. What's the next one?
You're going to observe, you're going to plan. So, plan would, you would think of that as more before observe, but as you set up your play space or your classroom, you're going to have activities or tools like markers and scissors ready to go. So maybe it's going to be we're just cutting paper. So put out a bunch of paper and some scissors, and children would love just sitting there cutting up the paper, cutting up or ripping up paper. So when we're observing them, you know their general routine or what children are naturally gravitating towards, like you would know your son. So if you kind of see that he's scratching his eyes, okay, maybe he's getting a little bit tired. Or if you see that he's kind of just like running in a circle, all right, maybe there's going to be a meltdown that might come from this. So if we're running in a circle as an educator, I might say, okay, follow me. We're going to run over here. Now we're going to touch the wall. Now we're going to touch the ground. Now we're going to jump. All right, I'm going to find you. Where are you going to hide? So I've taken that moment as he's almost figuring out, like, I have big emotions and I don't understand them, because sometimes their emotions aren't actually coming from a place of us adults seeing as logic.
Mm.
It's them just figuring out what these emotions are and then redirecting them in a different way, which is supporting them and connecting with them. So,
And how important? I mean, routine is very important,
mhm.
but is it okay? I mean, it's obviously okay, but too much routine, too much structure, like where's the balance there?
Great question. So even in your structure should be set up for free play and open-ended play. And that term means child-led. Free play is let them play as they wish. But when you set up the environment, you're setting it up for them to play as they wish with intentional items. So it is very thoughtful. So when I say intentional items, maybe your son is really into construction and you're going to have construction vehicles. Maybe you're going to have a bunch of blocks with pylons set up. Maybe you're also going to have Play-Doh with rocks and sticks and everything so they can maybe construct their own items. Maybe you're going to want to have some pictures printed on the walls. And it doesn't only have to be one theme. Our industry is moving away from theme based. And when we talk emergent based, it could be all a variety of different things that don't always align with each other. Um, so with your child, if when you're setting up the space, it's on their interest. So maybe they really like grocery shopping. So you have a little cashier setup. But if you always have that play kitchen's not going to be as exciting every day.
Mm,
So maybe we're going to do potions at the play kitchen.
mm.
Now we're going to do mud pies, or you're going to have really cool activities if you cut up pool noodles and you can have like sprinkles and stuff and they make their own donuts and decorate it. And you could wash the pool noodles afterwards and then you still have it as another play material and they wash it. So it's a whole step by step in their play, which is learning those life skills. But yeah, that kitchen setup, maybe it's a flower shop now. Maybe you're turning it into a pet shop. Let's go ahead and make it, we're now making shoes or something, right? So, how do we do that? Well, maybe you have laminated paper with shoes. Maybe you have old shoes that at home that they're not going to use, and you're going to let them use colored markers. There's just different ways that you can look at nothing and make it something. That's kind of in our field, educators are really skilled at is how can we take this interest and build on it as a play learning curriculum? And that's why it's not for everyone. It's not something that is we are born to understand. We do years of studying and
Mm.
engaging with children to gain this skill set in being able to have a plan A, plan B, follow up without overthinking it. But less is more. So if we are packing the car with 100 activities, that's too much. Maybe all we need is a magnifying glass, a clipboard, and a bag that they can collect some treasures as we're outside.
And amazing. And the one other thing too is when you're with your like, at what age is it child led? Like, is it from infancy
Mhm.
to when they go to school, or like what are the
Yeah,
ages
great
where?
question. So when they're infancy, it's not so much child led because they are dependent on mom and dad for feeding to put them to sleep. And they don't understand anything. So in infancy, you're going to be setting up their play, right? Maybe you're giving them black and white cue cards because that's really good for young infants to develop their eyesight. You're going to have stacking blocks and they're just learning how to crawl. You're doing tummy time. So infancy would not be child led. Once they get into more of the toddler ages where they're starting to cruise and um, be more independent, that's where we would call
What age is that?
children are walking at different ages, but I would say once they get to around one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one.
One. And again, saying that every child is on a different
Yeah, schedule.
journey on their
Yeah.
development and their schedule. So if your child is 14 months and starting to do this stuff, don't feel like you're behind.
Right.
Support your child where they're at.
And let's just say one.
Yeah.
What are they now transitioning to? Child led.
Child led play. So they might just be running around a classroom, just say, and that is them leading that play. You might have a child that is taking books and just throwing them off the bookshelf. As adults, we're like, oh, what are you doing? You're just throwing books on the ground. That's books are for like, we're trying to give them the rules when they don't have or understand those rules yet. So if they are taking all the books out, put less books on the bookshelf and then let them put it off and put it on the ground. And that for them cause and effect.
Mm.
So when they get older in more of the preschool age groups and getting into school age, that's when those rules can come in of
And what age is that? So you're
yeah,
1 to 3?
1 to 3 is more of your 2.5 toddler ages. And then 3 to 4 would be your preschool age group. And then once you get 4 to 6, it's your kinder ages. Then you get into your school age.
Right. So from 1 to 2.5, you're really child led.
And even in preschool, you're child led. And I would say, even in kinder, they're just different degrees of child led. And then different boundaries are set in place with the type of play they do.
Mm.
So with toddlers, we don't want to always be saying no to them. They're exploring their environment. So let's set up their environment to be explored
Mm.
and to get a little bit messy. Let's have not as many toys so the mess doesn't overwhelm us as adults. And then when they become preschoolers, they're doing more collaborative play with each other. So when toddlers are doing parallel play where they're playing side by side, but they're not necessarily engaging with each other. You might notice even with Frankie and his cousin, now that they're getting older, there's more play versus sitting beside each other, taking each other's toy, or just being together, but the play is not the exact same
Mm.
or even on the same page in a way. When they get into the preschool age, they start adding rules to their play with their friends. There might be a leader in the rule. You're daddy. I'm the daughter. You're the mommy. They start adding in these jobs,
Mm.
and then they're kind of mimicking real life experience as they understand it.
Mm.
But that's still child led, even though educators again are setting up the environment. They could take the materials and create the type of play that they want to play. So yeah, with the younger ages, it's a lot of exploration. They're exploring the the classroom, they're exploring the bedroom, the house. You might notice them in the kitchen opening up cupboards and dumping everything out, right? As adults, we're like, oh, why are they doing this? That's them exploring that space and understanding. And also, they're getting a sense of pride and joy in doing
Mm.
that. They are having fun taking the Tupperware and putting it onto the ground. So, as parents, we look at that and it's okay. Let it be. It's not, they're not going to be 15 years old taking the Tupperware and putting it on there. I hope not.
These days, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, anything I missed in regards to children, behaviors, nutrition, life, what you've learned, what would be beneficial? I'm looking at that 37 or 34-year-old mom or dad
Yeah.
that is going through this experience. I mean, I have two kids.
Yes.
I kind of wish I knew this 6 years ago. You learn it,
You learn it. Yes.
but it's also pretty cool to have someone be like, I've done it for 15 years. These are the things that I'm
15 plus. 15
15
is just
plus,
pro care.
right?
Yeah.
15 plus in it every day,
Yes.
seeing all these kids, hundreds of kids throughout your career,
Yes.
where I've seen two or a
Yeah.
handful. As a parent, there's so much education out there. There's so much noise out there,
There's so much noise.
good
You
and
bet.
bad.
You're right.
But there is like this honest conversation. It's like a master class of me being a dad
Hmm.
that I'm getting from this. So
Oh,
thank you
good.
for that.
Well, thank you
Um,
for allowing me to speak.
is there anything else that you could give to a mom and dad
Yeah.
that is, or someone that's running a daycare? Um,
Well, I'll start with the mom and dad. I just want mom and dads to know that you guys are amazing. Bringing a child into this life and loving this little child is the most important foundation that you can give to them. Um, Deciding what agencies you're sending them to, meeting the people, because to raise a child takes a village.
right.
And the village that you have, whether it be friends and family and the education program, communicate with them, share with them if you have questions, if you're unsure of something. You don't have to know it all. And I think that's an important thing is sometimes we feel that we have to, I've read the books and I know it all, but then there are things that even for myself, I say I'm a co-learner alongside the children. So if there's something new that I'm facing, all right, let's talk about it. Let's have discussions. Let's look into it more. So for parents, if you are, you know, parents being new into the journey and not having all the background and the education behind child development, it can feel overwhelming. So you're not alone in those feelings and talk with each other about it. But also don't be afraid to talk to your daycare providers and your educators and the teachers that you're working with because they could provide some more insight. And sometimes it's hard to just freely give that out because you'd never want to insult a parent because it is a hard job and you're doing your best. And in my view, doing your best is more than enough. And when we learn to simplify the lens of a child, it makes it a little bit easier. So you're going to have a lot of repetition. There's going to need to be consistency. You're going to want to have less is more mindset. So you're not overwhelmed in, you know, tackling the day ahead. Children need connection. They need that attachment. So beyond just I've given you your clothes and your food and you have all the toys, now go play with all these toys that we've purchased for you or you have, play with them and try to find your inner child. Even if you look at it that it's some parents have even said to me it's exhausting to get into that
Mm,
play. It's exhausting
mm,
and it is. But maybe put on a timer for a half an hour and you would be surprised that that time goes by quite quickly and you filled your child's cup
mm,
and then step away for a little bit. So then when you step back in, you can be super present and intentional with your child. Children grow fast.
mm,
The days are long, the years are short,
mm,
and you don't want to miss that window, that important window where eventually they're going to want to be with their friends. And that's developmentally appropriate, right? Where they want to kind of have more of that independence and learn certain things without having mom and dad always around with them. So you will have a time when you look back on these years and be, oh, those years were amazing. You won't remember all the hard times that come with it. So go with the flow, take the sleep when you can, make sure you're staying hydrated, doing all those self-care things that you would want to be making sure your child is doing. So you want to make sure they're sleeping and eating and drinking water, and do the same for yourself so you could show up as your best self. And it's okay to not be okay.
Mm,
And if you're not, reach out to someone and get the support, because your child deserves it and you deserve it.
mm,
I do feel like parents sometimes will carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they have so much they're thinking about and considering. Got to go to work, got to get ready for
mm,
bed. Tomorrow is this. We have these big agendas. But if we simplify that thought
mm,
into like, let's just be in the moment,
mm.
I think that will ease some of that pressure and just be with your child.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. And how about for daycare providers?
Yeah, for daycare providers, talk with your director, have some mental health days scheduled in that you get to catch up on errands or tasks, or just have a day for yourself. Talk with your team. Make sure that you're working alongside of each other. And like I mentioned at the beginning of our podcast, everyone has different skill sets. So when we enter into this field, just say I'm really strong at circle time, and my colleague might be really great at documentation and pedagogical learning and sharing photos and videos and research with parents. Well, even though that all educators should be doing circle time, figure out with your team your strong skill sets that almost fill your cup instead of drain your cup, and then let everyone roll with where they're at to create a strong program for the children. Because when the children feel they're in a safe, strong, secure program, they will thrive, and that will make their jobs even easier. So if you're feeling like, oh, we're kind of feeling like it's a pressure cooker, or we don't know what the next steps are, step back and reflect and observe, write notes down. Observations are part of our industry. So don't only observe on just the children, observe the room. We
Mhm,
look at that as charting.
mm,
How's the room being used? How can we change it and restructure it?
mm,
And it's not all about spending money. In fact, loose parts and natural items are more encouraged now than all the plastic toys.
mm,
So, and also there's studies around it, around children's brain development, because they're having to use their brain in a different way
mm,
than it being told, like, this is how you use this item.
mm.
So, have the discussions, listen to these type of podcasts, find ways that you are feeling fulfilled as an educator and as a parent. And, it's no relationship is perfect. No life is perfect. There's going to be challenges, and just find ways that you personally are going to navigate those challenges. And then how do you protect the children that are also being influenced by it?
Well, this is your first podcast, and you absolutely killed it.
Oh,
You did
thanks.
so awesome. Um, and I want to say thank you too. I mean, not only thank you for being such a vocal point in our community for the youth and children, but to have, I mean, I know you as this type of person. I've never really got into this type, and just seeing your eyes light up when you start talking about, the structure of things, the process, like there's a theory aspect of it, but then there's a doing aspect of it.
Mhm.
And when you marry both of them, this is
Yes.
what you get. And I hope people listen to this podcast and see your journey from the trust and, building your entrepreneurial life, but also like what it takes and the evolution of pro care,
Mhm.
and parents out there taking this knowledge and running with it. And I hope they reach out to you. And if they have any questions, I know you're gonna
Absolutely.
be open
And the
to them.
workshops that I do, I would
So
love
talk
any.
about them.
Yeah, the workshops, we have different topics. So whether it's risky play or less stuff and why, we talk about behavior and, um, you know, child development. So any of the workshops that we offer, you could head to our website or our socials, and you'll see the different ones that are that you'll see the different ones that we're offering. It's open for parents and educators. It's $25 for 1 hour, and we really dive deep into that topic. And my goals are always that people leave with, whether it's different ideas or feeling inspired and motivated, moving into the next part of their parenting journey or their education journey.
And the socials and the website and the emails, what's the best?
Yeah.
Where's the best to get hold of
So
you
our
again?
website is www.procarecenter.ca. Our socials are at Procare Family, and we're on Instagram and Facebook. And I also wanted to add, you've heard me speak a lot about outdoor play. I've started up a farm program all about outdoor play, and that could be a whole different podcast
We
and
are.
discussion.
I'm.
And I'll just leave
Yeah,
that there.
leave that plugged
Yes.
because I want to actually bring you in again and have a whole discussion around that.
Wonderful.
I think we can dive deeper into that.
Mhm.
And to get a hold of you, if people want to get a hold of you,
Yeah.
is it through Procare, Instagram?
You can get a hold of me through Instagram, through Facebook, through Procare. Pretty much all those streams, I'm the one running them. So you can find me easily.
So we have a closing tradition. I
Okay.
ask one final question. If you had a sticky note,
hmm
if you left a sticky note on your first laptop before you ever got started, what would it say?
Great question. Can I have 20 sticky notes? No, I'm joking. If I had one sticky note, what would it say? Be your authentic self and work with a good heart. I feel like for me, just being me has allowed me not to feel, because as entrepreneurs, a lot of time we deal with imposter syndrome.
Mm,
And that's where you feel like, am I qualified to be doing this? So I feel we're always learning as humans. We're constantly having to learn. So you don't need to know it all, but if you're being your authentic self and you're working with your heart and leading with your heart, then your intentions are pure and the work will show that.
love it. Thanks, Tiff.
Thank you, Dave.
Share this with a friend so that they could be a part of this journey too. Keep watching for more.